Edward Snowden, NSA leaker, sat down again with The Guardian in Russia for another round of revelations about NSA spying. One of them dealing with perhaps the most obvious thing in the world, nude photos on the internet. Now, according to The Guardian, Snowden, quote, made a startling claim that a culture exists within the NSA in which during surveillance, nude photographs picked up of people in, quote, sexually compromising situations are routinely passed around. Well, is that not surprising? Now, Snowden notes that this is actually against the law. It's illegal, of course, makes sense. But when you have a security agency like the NSA that contracts its work out to who knows who and doesn't have proper oversight, you're going to have people doing absolutely whatever the hell they want. And that includes finding your naked pictures and sexts and passing them around. Now, first, I want to get your guys' opinion on this, and then I'm going to go on.
Well, for me, it's not a huge surprise. I think everyone who's been following the NSA story in, even just a small amount of detail would probably be expecting this sort of revelation to come about sometime. However, I do think that, obviously it's egregious and everything, and, it's no great surprise, but the silver lining to this is what I see. If I'm going to get any sort of good news out of it, and I always try to get good news out of any porn story, is that there's going to be so many kind of naked photos that are floating around the internet that the NSA will have a hold of that will be leaked, is that there's not going to be any more sex scandals for politicians in the next few decades because all the young people are kind of Snapchatting each other, sending naked selfies. They're all going to be documented, and no one's going to be ashamed of their nudity anymore. Now, there are some people who probably should be ashamed of their bodies. I'm not particularly looking at you, Sean, but it's just, if there's any silver lining, it's that, this won't become an issue. Obviously, it's a breach of privacy. That's all egregious, and it shouldn't be happening. But if it is going to happen, and it will, then at least no one's going to be embarrassed about their naked selfies, because it seems like everyone's going to have a naked selfie of themselves that the media will be able to get a hold of.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stephen. I'm gonna have to totally disagree with you on that part. Like I've known somebody in my personal life who took naked pictures of herself when she was younger, and now she wants to become a teacher. And we've seen 18 million stories of teachers who, for not even nude photographs, but like sexually explicit photographs, end up getting fired. So like the naked pictures thing, I think that's serious. But in reality, it just reflects that the people at the NSA are humans, and if you give humans untold power, they will abuse it. Like think about it. Like think about Steven's a young guy like myself. No offense, Jeff. But like if somebody in your group of friends takes a really sexy picture, then usually that has a lot of comments and ends up in your Facebook feed, or sometimes your friend might send you a picture and be like, "Oh my God, look at her." Now think about that with the NSA and all the most beautiful women in the world. Like it's the most obvious thing in the world that they will look for and seek out pictures of them. Like that's why we used to have this theoretical system where you before you did surveillance on somebody, you got warrants based on this thing called probable cause. So like it's obvious that the NSA is that people at the NSA are going to do this, and it's super obvious that because we don't have a warrant system, it makes them less effective, because when you can look for whatever, humans tend to lean towards sex.
Yeah, this is about the most human thing in the world. Unchecked power, check. Ironic that I say that, but just we'll go with it, right? They've got unchecked power, and they have the internet, which is full of naked people. I mean, not just porn, but you have actually, people sexting, which is like a huge thing, and a huge problem actually for people in high school. Somebody in the comments says, "Well, under the laws, shouldn't the NSA be put up for child porn?" That's sort of a devastating point, because if they're collecting all of this information and some of it just happens to be a 15-year-old girl, could they get in trouble for child porn? That would be amazingly hilarious.
So that's actually one of the reasons I have, and it's not to protect the NSA, it's one of the reasons I have a nuanced position on the viewers and not the producers of child pornography, because what if you get sent an image you don't know is child porn until you view it? Like, I think it's like a thought crime. Like, I know this is random, but yeah, the NSA, like, why are they exempt from those laws? And you can't tell me that there aren't total pervs in the NSA who get off on child porn, who are, like, aggregating those images.
Right. And once again, I'm gonna point out that it's not just the NSA that's doing this. A lot of these are contractors that have no, there are no sort of checks on their authority. So yeah, like you've got contractors from the private sector as well, not beholden to pretty much anybody, and they're going to be full of pervs and everything. You'll be like, oh, check out this, naked picture that I intercepted. Hey, let's print these out, pass them around or whatever. Who's gonna stop us? Who's gonna catch us? It's really horrible.
I mean,
and we would have never known about any of this if it weren't for Edward Snowden's revelations.
Exactly. I mean, just going back to your point there, for me, the distinction between kind of government workers or their private contractors, I couldn't really care between that distinction. The fact remains that you have tens of thousands of people who have access to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of private naked photos of people on the internet. And you're right, statistically, let's say if you employ 10,000 people, one of them is going to have some sort of perversion. At least one of them is going to be kind of collecting this information, sticking it on a pen drive, and then taking it back home to do what they will with it. It's amazing that people, like, they realize that, they think, yeah, this is happening, sure, that's fine, sort of thing. And it's almost a case of, okay, I've taken some naked selfies in my time, but they're not going to have mine, sort of thing. It's not going to happen to me. My photos aren't going to be leaked. I get the sense that seems to be most people's mindset. They know that it's going on, but they're just not that bothered about it because they don't think it's going to happen to them, and I think that's a real shame.
Can I just point out one thing, like, to anybody who's, like, skeptical and is like, oh, hey, the NSA is a good guy. Like, if you're a human male person, and, like, this applies to some females too, go on your Facebook page and look at your top friends that are shown to you, like the people that you visit the most. I guarantee you, if you're a male, your top friends include, like, your best friend, and then, like, 3 to 6 of the prettiest women that you are friends with. Like, it's human nature that when you have access to a bunch of photos of beautiful people, you're going to look at a bunch of photos of beautiful people. I'm not exempt from that human nature. Steven's not exempt from that human nature. Jeff is married, so he's totally exempt from that human nature, and his wife would lay down the law if anybody said different.
Like any good woman would. But getting to the whole point of this thing, this whole segment, is that, I got a little bit of advice, especially now. Like, sexts weren't already, they were always a bad idea. And there are so many reasons not to sext. So I'm hoping that even hearing this, maybe some people will turn around and be like, well, and go against what you were saying. I'm hoping that common sense gets over that whole thing. Oh, it couldn't be mine. No, it could be yours. It most likely is yours.
And also, I just want to make one point about sexting. Like, come on, ladies, what are you going to get in return? A set of balls. Like, nobody's into that. Like, let's keep it real.
That's very true. But once again, there's no reason for people to sext anyway. It's ridiculous. It ends up on the internet, and once it's on the internet, you can't get rid of it. So that's why I hope that people stay away from it. But like I said, if all those other reasons that sexting is bad isn't enough to sway you, just think about this. Uncle Sam is probably looking at pictures of your Johnson, or most likely your tits, and passing it around the office. Is that really how you want to be seen? Really?